Back with Mr. Steve Warburton for an hour with the Tower, and we've moved on to May 2015 and the WPT Amsterdam. Has to be one of the favourite stops for poker players by far. 341 entries, and second, 150,000.
This was my favourite tournament of all time.
Yeah.
It was such a good tournament. Just everyone is just like, I don't know what it is about Amsterdam, and obviously 60% or 70% of the field are kind of Dutch, and there's just no one kind of taking the mickey and being slow with their play, and everyone's talking to each other, and that's like from day one to the end. It was just a really fun tournament, and I felt like as well it wasn't a tournament where it was, just winning flips the whole way through. It was like a really good structure and stuff, and yeah, it was just a really fun tournament, and it was obviously my biggest score at the time. A lot of my best friends were there at the time. Again, it was just an obscene amount of money. It was just like so good. We had a fantastic few days afterwards.
What was the party like afterwards?
So good, Tower. It was just so good. It's just like I'm honestly, I'm such an old man. After about 4 or 5 hours, I'm just like a backache and I want to go to bed. But when you've just got like pure poker rush adrenaline, it's just so good just to go out and you just like, yeah, it's great. It happens very rarely to win a tournament, but
yeah. It was a great effort. Then you go on to party poker high roll, another second. And you lost to Alex Goulder, but you're good friends with Alex.
Yeah, sure.
Was there a lot of chatting when you were heads up, or was it like enemies at the table and then just shaking hands and a bit of a cuddle afterwards?
We were talking about this recently, actually. This is when Dustle Dawn had basically banned you from making a deal.
Yeah.
And I remember we basically went outside to just have a chat, and Simon Trumper came out. He literally just tapped me on the shoulder and he just said, "If you make a deal, you're barred from like DTD for life." And I was like, okay, just outside. So yeah, we weren't actually allowed to make a deal. And yeah, I don't think I actually won a hand heads up. Alex won. He was like typically smug about it. And, yeah.
As long as you're still friends, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
As long as you're still friends. But the biggie, in 2015, we head up to Barcelona. We play another EPT. We have 1,694 runners. There's nearly 10 million in the prize pool.
Yeah, it's big, yeah.
1,070,000 for second.
Ridiculous, isn't it?
I'm going to talk, obviously, this is one of the moments I always remember while watching a live stream for one of the first times, watching this, because obviously we all remember the chop. But what was it like at the final table, knowing what was at stake? There's a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, I've never really talked about it. Like, obviously it happened, and people congratulate on the money and stuff. But I've never really talked about like the whole thing. I mean, I remember the night before I even entered, I was like pretty sure that I was just going to quit the game, because I'd had basically a couple of years of thinking I was doing well and kind of knocking on the door and stuff, but just never actually making any money, essentially from it. And I was just completely over it, to be honest. And so I kind of went into that tournament and played, I don't know, maybe what you describe as like really badly, because I just didn't care. Do you know what I mean? And I was just doing all these ridiculous plays and like ridiculous bluffs and ridiculous things, just thinking, well, this is probably my last one ever. And if I think someone's not got a good hand, I'm basically just going to put them to the test almost. And so there are so many hand histories in that tournament where I'm just completely putting it off, never getting called. So I was never, in a situation. I think there was like one reported where I like 5-bet or 6-bet that And that's a jeans guy. He plays like PLO online, and there's just this like ludicrous hand history where I've like 3-bet and jack 3 off, I'm 5-bet, sorry, and he's called and it's come like king 6 deuce, and he's checked and I bet and he's folded, and I've shown it for some reason which I never ever do, and I'm just looking back now, just thinking there was just so many hands like that where I was just like, well, let's just try and win it or not. And obviously, so lucky to actually go on and chop it and things.
Yeah.
And the final table was just loads and loads of fun.
Well, it was also famous for a rowdy rail.
Super rowdy rail. There was obviously the hand where John DeWanders folded kings pre, which would have basically knocked me out if I'd not hit an ace. I had ace king suited. I think it was 7 or 8 left.
Yeah.
It's gone like open 3-bet, 4-bet from the small blind. I ended up jamming because we'd basically just been for dinner, and he was basically saying something along the lines of, "There's 3 short stacks. The money jumps are big.
Yeah,
we kind of don't need to get involved." And so from that, I kind of took it as, right, you're not going to want to kind of get in some huge kind of confrontation pre-flop. And so I was pretty confident he'd fold queens pre. I would obviously never have done it if I knew he had kings, because no one folds kings pre. He ended up folding, and we basically did the deal 3-handed, which was obviously life-changing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't really feel much pressure because I just had this mentality of like, I don't really care. And it was a really strange tournament, to be honest. And I really kind of wish now I played every tournament like that, because it was almost just like no fear. Do you know what I mean? You just didn't really care what was.
Yeah. And you're doing a deal for 7 figures, and you get one guy to pick to negotiate just to make sure he's got the right deal. And somebody walks on stage with 2 bottles of beer in his hand, and he's like, "Yeah, well, it's only 7 figures." Yeah.
Because it was either Fraser Mack,
who
was very notorious at the time for doing every deal, wasn't he? He was always there, kind of, or it was Feraldo, who I kind of knew but didn't know as well as I know him now. And I remember Toby Stone came up and he said, "You're only allowed 1 person to come in up and kind of helping you." And Fraz Mack was like, "Right, yeah, it's me, innit? It's me." And I was going, Feraldo, I'll take you, which was probably a mistake because Feraldo was half cut, wearing a hat, holding beers, as you say. But actually, he was really good because you basically only get a couple of minutes.
Yeah,
I was completely lost in like the whole what was going on. And he was very just like, you need to do this, this, and this. You shouldn't do this. And he basically gave me some really good advice, actually. And yeah, from there onwards, I think I said something along the lines of, well, we don't have to deal. I don't care about the money, which is a complete lie. I was desperate for a deal. I just literally wanted to do it. And I was like, oh, well, if you guys want to do a deal, up to you. I'm not bothered about the money. Just trying to get more money out of it, obviously. And then as soon as it was done, I was like, right, this is the greatest thing ever. I can just do whatever. But yeah.
Obviously went straight to bed afterwards.
Again, that was an absolute. I'll actually tell you something as well. We basically went out afterwards, and I basically got mugged. Well, not mugged. I basically got robbed because I actually had no money on me. I basically won all this money, and we basically had organised, this kind of massive thing afterwards that cost loads of money, and I didn't have any money. So I went round almost every person that was there and asked them for money, just like a massive pigeon, just like, if you got 500, if you got 200. And after an hour and a half, I'd collected something like, I don't know, it was like 10 or 15,000 euros in cash. And I basically put the euros in my pocket. And obviously around there in Barcelona, on those beaches, and stuff, everyone's watching. Within 5 minutes, Phil, that had been swiped. So when the bill came, it was like, you need to pay. I had no money, so I had to then go round again. I had to ask everyone for a second time, and everyone's going, well, I've just paid you 1,000. What's going on? You basically just won this million. So yeah, it was like the best time to ever be robbed because you didn't care because you kind of cashed all this money. But yeah, I basically got done for about 15 grand.
Wow. And on that note, we'll be back with Mr. Steve Warburton and more stories very shortly.